Hello and welcome to Labour Lens. I am Sharon Ijason. On this week edition of the program, we will be discussing the state of the nation, the role organized labor, organized private sector and government can play towards ensuring that there is more calm in the country.
The agenda is set. After your opening remarks, we will then go quickly into business of the day.
For more than 6 hours, the federal government and the leadership of the university teachers were locked behind closed doors. The resumed talks raised hopes of an end to the protracted industrial action that has shut down academic activities in the nation's universities since March. Both parties expressed confidence the interface will produce the desired result.
Government attaches a lot of importance to reopening our tertiary institutions, especially the universities. And because also the issues we have on hand are issues that we are now started coming down to resolving fully, we need to tackle them as quickly as possible.
But that was not to be.
Now we are here and our members are expecting that we come back to them with government's position on the letter we delivered the other time.
Heated arguments were heard behind closed doors, with the ASU representatives walking out one after the other. Eventually, the meeting, which began at about 4 p.m., ended a few minutes to 10 p.m., with either party reluctant to inform the press about the outcome. A similar meeting held 2 weeks earlier, in which the same scenario played out, with no meaningful conclusion as to the striking teachers, including the release of 20 billion naira by January 2021 for the revitalization of public universities and the setting up of visitation panels to the schools. The major bone of contention remains the platform to be adopted for the payment of the teachers' salaries and earned allowances. While government says it is still putting the union's payment system, the University Transparency Accounting System, to test, it appeals to ASU to have its members enroll on the IPPIS in the meantime to ensure the payment of all outstanding salaries. But the union has stood its ground, insisting IPPIS cannot be suitable for the peculiarities of the university system.
You are already having a mindset that, oh, I'm going to start my own shoe making factory. I'm going to start my soap making factory. And once we start little by little, we have more people that are entrepreneurs. And when you're entrepreneurs, that shows that if we have 100 people staying in an area, and if 10 are fortunate to get the white collar jobs, and out of the remaining 90, we have over 60 or 50 that started a process. At least that can even absorb others. So by going through the entrepreneurship route, it's going to help everybody to see how we can absorb other people by means of employment. So the government cannot create all this employment. But what government should do is to create an enabling environment by sensitizing people from when they are younger, probably NYSC, when they are in university, they are in polytechnic, they are in technical schools, on the need for them to start up something and not to rely on physical employment with anybody.
There are some basic things that are threatening the survival of businesses in Nigeria. Number one is road infrastructure. Number two is electricity. And these are some of the things that we should have gone past by all this while. But unfortunately, we are still dwelling on some of these basic infrastructures that should have been provided to, in the past for businesses to thrive. Because as we speak today, many businesses, even established organizations, are lamenting the high cost of running their businesses, and as a result they can maintain a large staff strength or staff base. So definitely, what do you expect them? They would cut down the number of employees that work with them, and as a result, we'll go back to where we are coming from, where the rate of unemployment is actually high.
It's going to be a long journey, but I think what is important is for the fundamentals to be right moving forward. There should be a lot of comforting on the part of policymakers and the government, but importantly, I think there should be some action plan that should be rolled out for the unemployed, and then for those that may soon lose their jobs as well, for them to have some opportunities opened up. But then that is a function of the economy, isn't it? The economy is contracting. There's a lot of pressure already on the economy. So I also call on individuals and communities and people and societies to also be creative in trying to use their hands and their heads in trying to get things done.
On the profile interview segment this week, I will be speaking with the Deputy President of the Nigerian Labour Congress, who also doubles up as the National President of the Construction Workers Union of Nigeria. He tells me what organized labour can do to ensure that government is more responsive towards achieving decent work for all, and advises protesters on what they can bring to the negotiating table to ensure that it is result-oriented. Take a listen. It's good to have you on the program. A lot has been happening in the country for a while. Can you tell us what is your view on the state of the nation at the moment?
Honestly, I think at a time like this, we must admit that the economy of this country is in crisis, much than ever. And we just have to think towards solving such problems. I understand the quest from the youth agitations. But so long the government in power still have some number of years to cover up, then the agitation should not also be swept under carpet. But looking at the economy generally, we have problems. And then I have challenge with the state of our economy. We have a capacity problem in this country. We have database problem in this country. It's difficult. Means of identification is also lacking. So in our population, there is every falsehood of information around the number of population. No Nigerian can tell us where we are about population census of this country. Therefore, it's giving problem to planning, because who are you planning for? A system of government that should be of the people, should know the people, know their number, know the age bracket. When we talk about the youth, what's the size of the youth? What is the number? What is the range? What is the youth bracket? How many are unemployed? And even when you talk about youth, categorize them. Category A are probably these youth that are probably undergraduate or have graduated, no job. Okay, conventionally they can get job, all things being equal. What about the group B of this same youth who probably for one reason of background or purposely choice of individuals could not attend education and lack the willingness to do so? Should we allow them to be street boys? And then if you do, the consequence will come again. And so how do you solve this kind of problem? We need to engage training because I believe that for you to have this number of youth, if you have what you call area boys or call them any name you may tag them, call them hoodlums, so long they continue to dwell in the society, they are Nigerians. And if you don't do anything to checkmate their thinking, to arrest their skill, and channel their energy rightly, you will make blunder in the future. So I advocate that skill acquisition should be made a program for this youth. There is no group or category of people that does not match a place in the economy. So we must fix them somewhere. You must begin to industrialize Nigeria, whereby this youth can fit in one factory or the other. In fact, when people tell you that government have no business in business, we have to counter that option now because they have business to rescue this youth. Otherwise, they will run to no address because these youth are not tired. The fact that the protest was put on hold is to re-strategize. No country will be silent. Neither will anybody discourage a peaceful protest that will put governance under tools. No. People like us will continue to advocate that legitimate and constructive
protest whenever the need arise to question policies that are anti-people, we must do so. And therefore, we have seen the challenges in the course of the protest. There may be one error or the other, probably planning, and lack of leadership in the first place among them was also a big factor. In as much their fear was for their leader not to be hijacked. But at the same time, you must trust yourself. These are the youth himself. So if you don't trust yourself, how will you even vote among yourself to come to power? So you should test run them now, bring them to power, let them go and negotiate, and use this negotiating point to assess their skill.
Over the years, since inception of Nigeria's independence, Nigerian Labour Congress, which would represent organized labor, has been clamoring for decent work at all levels. Looking at the experience that we all have had in Nigeria recently, what would be your take towards ensuring that organized private sector and the government ensure decent work for all?
And for me, so when we come back, you talk about decent work. Decent work must be prioritized. As a matter of fact, it is unlawful to do otherwise. And for me, I believe decent work, irrespective of work status, irrespective of source of contract, irrespective of duration of job, decent work should be the order of engagement when it talks about employment. And therefore, we can't do less than it, because decent work is about safety. Decent work is about rules of engagement in a place of operation. So when you remove decent work, you remove dignity from mankind. And there is no respect for any worker when decent work does not associate with the condition of service for such operation. And therefore, decent work will continue to advocate, in as much it should be a style of life. It should be a style of life in the working place that decent work should be the order of the day. I frown at the recent option of the police to stay out of duty. It's totally strange. If you ask me, I will classify it as unprofessional, unconstitutional for that matter. Police, for no reason, in as much they cannot engage in going for strike. For example, their job is so essential that you can't have a nation without policing. And therefore, the option of police staying off duty with that temper, it does not matter the timing, is totally wrong, very unethical, that you leave a society and the same people you call hoodlums have the option now that certain rules and laws that were in place, especially in Lagos as I speak, all the places they ban Keke and Okada, they have resumed now because they believe they are the one governing. And that is not safe. And I must say, Nigeria, that this issue of living by directive of IG is totally wrong. We should be living by rules of engagement. A DPO in a locality should know the options when the need arise. But whereby you operate a system, every little thing they are looking for directive, every little thing order from above, that is totally unsecure for us. And we must advocate that the option of police trying to review option when the one in place is not stable is also wrong. Policing should be constant. Change of option is strategy by itself. So strategy does not put to halt existing system. Sometime now, ever since this breakdown of law at Lekki Gate, you could now see that road safety are pulled out of the road. Last man they call, they are pulled out of the road. Police have pulled out of their station. See, when a police station is raised down by hoodlums, you must continue to instill that very integrity of the police. There is NSAS does not mean end police. You will need the police. As a matter of fact, reforming police should not also be built on the current structure. You must reform police on the ground that entire Nigeria, all the governors have made the call. They need state policing where they will be in charge, where they can give control to a CP and they will not receive a counter order. People should be responsible within their locality. Governance is about life and property. So whereby we are not safe to that extent, as I speak to you, average politicians, they don't go out now with their official cars. At least I have spoken to a lot of them. Through one way or the other, we discover now that they are going on Uber. Anybody that laughs towards that situation, it means they are not also planning to grow. Because if the VIPs or whatever you call them who have fear of going out, then the one that is following have no hope. Because he who is not safe cannot think well. And there's no way we can put responsibility in the hand of people that if we want to conduct an election in a state, you see IG moving the entire police from other part of the country to a particular state, whereby you now have challenge like we had few days ago, we have few weeks ago, whereby you have situation, same chaos everywhere in Nigeria, and you have 300 and something thousand policemen, just like a community, to secure 300 million people. It is totally unprofessional, unacceptable, and the president must take advantage of this recent protest to begin to fix what was not in place.
Unemployment seems to be the order of the day, especially with the emergence of COVID-19 pandemic, which is still ravaging the world. What would be your advice to the government and perhaps organized labor to ensure that there are visible solutions in tackling the issue of unemployment in the country?
Because these problems have continued over time. Solution seems to be on one-way traffic approach, and we're living on promise, not program. And that is totally wrong. Government will come in to tell you that they will provide 1 million jobs in 1 year. That is an insult to the economy itself, because you don't make promises when there are no indices that suggest so. So when people believe those promises, it tells you the level of uneducated, the level of illiteracy around. When people are deceived on the street of what you want to do, when we don't have national program, there's no national agenda for Nigeria. That is why these problems are widening. So I believe to address the issue of unemployment, we must agree that we need national agenda. As a growing country, you must have a national agenda that irrespective of a political party in power, you will not deviate from the program of Nigerians, whereby you have a stage plan development. It doesn't matter where you end. The next person must build on your development. You must build on your foundation. We don't work like this. You don't condemn. Somebody will come to power. You will employ some certain people that will do nothing. You see number of workforce. People complain of wage bill costs when they are not celebrating the productivity of those workers. Meaning that you are just employing for no reason, just to meet up planning of probably to satisfy the fact that you made promise. Okay, you come and work. Work where? There are people in the ministry, they don't even know what they were employed to do. They have been there for 5-6 years doing nothing, and you don't engage those ministries to work. You have a ministry that is in place, and you still have government bringing consultants to do the job of a ministry. What a shame. So I believe that to address the issue of unemployment, first of all, we must admit that it's a poison as we speak. Unemployment is the biggest threat to the economy. The last protest suggests to us that the number of youth that are out of job or have not even gotten the privilege to work, they are more than those that have secured job. It's a big threat for when you have larger number of people that are not working, and then you have the few that thinks they are working. Those ones are liability already to them, and you cannot cover them. You cannot secure freedom in that direction. So we need to begin to create this labor-intensive approach of how to generate programs. Programs are what look consistent to address unemployment. You don't just solve unemployment problem by promising to create jobs. So when you talk about the recent program by federal government in creating 774,000 jobs across the country, very fantastic. 1,000 jobs in every local government will do a lot, because imagine 1,000 youth on the street for protests across Nigeria. That will unseat government. So when you now engage such people, it looks like a program. It looks like a lasting scheme that could address unemployment. But that is too temporary for me. Because if we know that 774,000 youth can be given job, all we needed was to bring economic thinkers to suggest to federal government what are the plans in bringing these people to work. How does it contribute to the growth of the economy? Is such that paying them will not be a waste. When you define such model, the employment will last. Employment will no longer be 3 months thing. Because if you don't forget, see, they say when a sleeping dog, they say allow him continue his sleep. Now you have called on 774 people that have no job. Say, come and take up this job. They take up job 3 months, even though the money is below minimum wage. And that is why they have described it that it's not actually work per se. But in trying to also score some level of credence, they also call it employment. So that we see it as empowerment, palliative empowerment for certain people. So if you create this kind of opportunity that will last 60,000 in the hand of somebody for 3 months, it's a good deal for somebody who have not seen 10,000 for a year. The question is, what happened after 3 months? It means that we are already aware in advance that 774 youth will be declared redundant after 3 months. No plan. This is the problem of widening unemployment in Nigeria. And I don't see the end until we see a program that is taking up this, swallowing this youth into system and making them be called employable. That is why you need to segregate them. The ones that are on conventional platform of unemployment can get job when the opportunity comes. Opportunity can only come when infrastructure is driven with key program, as well as when you employ these people to work, the ability to continue in that direction, it becomes a bridge that these people have hope. They can plan. They can discontinue and disallow anything that will disrupt the economy because they want the society safe, that they can work. But whereby you have a lot of them, they just move around the street, no hope, and little advice that could make them misbehave, put it that way, they will embrace it as an option. Because they feel also that if their misbehavior will make you behave well for them to benefit, then it becomes an option legally for them.
As a negotiator, as a labor leader, who also have experience in being part of committees during negotiation with government, I am aware that some youth are being nominated to meet with government to discuss the 5 for 5 plan, 7 for 7 plan. What would be your advice to these youths when they get to the table for negotiation?
One key advice for the youth first is for them to understand that have actually submitted themselves for negotiation. But we should also know that in the case, a subject of governance, negotiating with a serving government, when you already have a series of agitations in terms of numbering issues that are not attended to, when you are engaged in that discussion, you have to be careful of timing. So the first factor they must consider in engaging into that negotiation is timeline. Of any matter whatsoever you raise, let there be a timeline to achieving it. That is the only way you can serve as a monitor to the outcome of that meeting. And you should know that when you go to a meeting whereby parties are expecting agenda from you as though they don't know your problems, you should be careful because government know more than anybody. Government is a system, so they understand what you've not even said. So don't go there as if you have scored an advantage by coming to a meeting. You should go there as though you are blaming and questioning inabilities and inefficiency, and they must tell you why the protest should not continue. Put it that way. Why did they think that the peaceful protest enshrined in the Constitution will not resume too soon? That is to say, the issue of unemployment, there should be a program now to tell us that in the next 1 year, 5 million Nigerians will be employed. It tells you that in the next 6 months or so, infrastructure is designed to have resumed across Nigeria. When we talk about the issue of engagement, I want the youth to also know it is not every matter that concerns the agitation that you must take to government. There are some issues that you must treat as your priority. Engagement of dignity, engagement of discipline and integrity is for you alone. What must you do to get those things done by yourself as youth? When we talk about you, we talk about energy. We talk about strength to deliver. We talk about ability to discover. So now that you are frowning, you can't wait to be there. The question is, what are you doing to be there? When you allow voters' card to remain in the hand of the old people, your parents have voters' card, but you don't have as a child, and we're talking about your future, it's a problem. Because your parents will remember their principal. Their parents will remember their friends. They keep voting the old that eventually somebody said may be leading you to grave, not actually any future, because an old man, as a matter of fact, has no future. The average dream of a politician in Nigeria is to build a future for their children, take them out of the country to study, and then create a world for them. And when that is done, to them it's an achievement. So when you have this kind of people, you should be thinking of replacement. Legitimately, how do you take over? Voter's card is your voice during election. So we must advocate on how this youth will promote registration to let them go around this country. Let every youth begin to encourage himself. I can't do anything except I have my voter's card. So going to negotiate, for me, it's an opportunity. You don't abandon negotiation, but I doubt the outcome. Because who is going to implement the outcome of that negotiation? The same people you're talking about? So for me, let us think towards, when you see a particular force coming into place to say it is time for us to take over, all I expect the youth is, don't go violent, for that will work against you. Anything you must do should be in line with the law. And when you follow that scheme, people eventually will celebrate the outcome when the time comes. 2023 should be their target. For me, I am seeing this kind of protest that has just occurred. If we are not careful, it will come again. Because the challenges will give birth to worse challenge. And I advise them to accept the option, negotiate and be the monitor of it, but let there be timeline. Negotiation should not take too long. Otherwise, it becomes a strategy to also hold you down and not to do otherwise. And there should be changes in any of the engagement. People that are engaged in this should not be the people that are engaged in this, so that you assess different of their representative in that direction.
It was a pleasure having you on the program. And that's all we can take on today's edition of the program. Join us next week as we continue our conversation on the coronavirus pandemic and how it's been affecting the world of work. I am Sharon Ijason. Thank you for watching, and always remember that labor creates wealth.